Sienna Miller and Jude Law, part 1. Some TWs about this series. First TW, I'm in need for my eyelash refill. You don't have to tell me that they're a little separated and loose. You don't have to tell me because my mother tells me every 5 minutes. I went to Miami yesterday to hang out with my family, came back this morning. Also, quickly, I would like to say hello to Diana Gonima that was on my Delta flight this morning that says, I love you, Tefi. You had your pee-pee out. I did not have my pee-pee out. That scared me, but then I realized what you were referencing. Third, this filter is horrible. I don't want to see it on my timeline anymore. I look like an Australian blogger, gorgeous, but I know it's not me. I look like I'm wearing like Princess Polly, like this. I don't like that I love it, but it ages me a little. I don't want to see it anymore. I don't want to see what I could look like. Anyway, David Jude Hayward Law was born on December 29th. What year? A while ago. He's a Capricorn sun, Libra, moon, Sag rising. He is a determined, hot, silly goose of a man. And his Libra moon tells me that maybe he had a mother who was indifferent to his emotions. But then again, he's British and I hear that a lot. Why don't you guys hug each other more? His parents were school teachers. He began acting at the age of 5. He got into theater, got a lot of acclaim. And then he was on soap operas. Enter Sadie Frost. She is a Gemini sun, Aquarius moon, which tells me maybe she has a very maybe overly expressive mother and she has a hard time even expressing her emotions. I have no, whatever. This is just science. He was 19. He just got like his first like big role. It was a drama called Shopping. And then she was 25 and she had just wrapped filming Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula, right? And she was also married to someone. No, she was married to Gary Kemp. Sorry, not just anyone. She was married to Gary Kemp, a major songwriter. Huge, like he's performed like alongside Whitney Houston. Like, yeah, not sorry, Mr. Kemp. She says that when she met Jude, she tried to like shut out all the thoughts about Jude and wanting to flirt with him, but she wrote a memoir and she is very candid about when she meets Jude. Ready? She said that it was more than just a harmless crush. I felt it was my fate to spend the rest of my life with Jude. The force of love I felt for Jude and his intense ambition, they say science isn't real, Capricorn, made me feel out of control. Wow. I have to say though, every person he's been publicly involved with says the same thing about him. That they meet him and he is just irresistible, you know? And I in my mind, he is the man from The Holiday and I'm sick that way. I think about him like, of course, if he showed up to my cottage door, I'm sick. I know you're thinking, why are we talking about Sadie Frost? Well, that's his wife that he was with when he met Sienna, so. Part 2, Sienna Miller and Jude Law. Right now we're talking about his first marriage, which is important. Also, does anybody else start a TikTok and TikTok wants you to start with that like fairy filter in the song like, pour me another? I don't want to be poured another and I just want to do my series. Please, free me. Also, Sadie Frost reminds me of a 90s actress that also looks like Neve Campbell. If anybody knows what I'm talking about, she has a similar haircut and she's stunning and gorgeous. I thought maybe she was in Twin Peaks. I don't know why, but if you know who I'm talking about, could you please let me know? It's driving me nuts. So Sadie separates from Gary in 1993. In 1995, she's divorced and she begins her life with Jude Law pretty immediately. They have their first child in 1996 and Jude is 24 and he's at like his star is rising. I'm gonna say this. Jude Law's children are so fucking beautiful. I can't even comprehend it. Look at this little, like, Gerber baby stun. Adorable. The curls kill me. His first blockbuster is Gattaca, which is very like Theranos and Minority Report. It's like with a single drop of blood, you know? But also Gattaca is where Uma Thurman and Ethan Hawke met too. And that's a whole other story. So Sadie and Jude Law get married in the fall of 1997. They have their second child in the year 2000 and another in the year 2002. One of these kids is Iris Law, who is stunning. In 2002, Sadie and Jude got some bad press because unfortunately, these two were partiers, but they were really, really big partiers, which is their right. But unfortunately, Sadie accidentally ate an ecstasy pill, which is horrifying, when she was 2 years old. That whole friend group was like a party group. They were known as the Primrose Hill set. Daniel Craig was in this friend group, Kate Moss, William and Liam. William? Is it William and Liam? No. Noel and Liam Gallagher? Oasis. That's Liam and Noel. Those two fucking hate each other. Ewan McGregor was in this friend group, and Uma. I'm not saying that everybody in there did ecstasy, but what I'm saying is that was there. You know what I'm saying. I too also accidentally once. But I was 28 years old, and I still handled it quite poorly. We'll talk about it another time. But this part, let me take Iris off. Poor baby, she's fine. Parents make mistakes, I'm sure it was horrible. I'm not trying to parent shame anybody. So in her, again, very candid memoir, Sadie talks about how this lifestyle put a huge strain on their relationship, and I can only imagine. The first thought I have whenever I'm hungover is, oh my God, if I had fucking kids right now. You know what I mean? She writes this in her memoir, excuse me. One night, I arranged a babysitter for Raph and Finn and went out. I partied all night and got home the next day racked with guilt. I was sitting at my dressing table, not feeling anything, just numb. Part 3, Jude Law, Sienna Miller. Right now we're talking about his marriage and the stress, the strain on the relationship. Doesn't he look like Ryan Philippe, the biggest asshole in the world? He is. I've never met him. I don't have to. But yeah, anyway. So around this time, Jude Law tells Sadie, I'm not in love with you anymore, which I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine. In August 2003, they filed for divorce. They were divorced by October. So to sum it up, between the ages of 19 and 30, Jude Law got married, had 3 kids, got divorced, and became a globally known star. By the time he got divorced, he had already been in 19 movies. Okay. I want to say the Beyonce quote, everyone has the same 24 hours as Beyonce and everyone has the same 24 hours as Jude Law. What the fuck? One of my favorite movies is Cold Mountain, which he's in with Nicole Kidman and Renee Zellweger. And whenever one of my friends moves to the country, I always say to my mom, she went Renee Zellweger on us. And she knows immediately what I mean. There were actually rumors that Nicole Kidman and Jude Law had an affair during Cold Mountain, and Nicole Kidman sued these publications for libel. It's also rumored he had a very short fling with a 19-year-old Scarlett Johansson when he was 30. But he's especially known beyond his movies, like Talented Mr. Ripley, chilling, for his relationship with Sienna Miller, which he met on set for Alfie. Alfie is a remake. I personally like the original better, but that's just me. Jude Law was 30 and she was 21. A lot of people think that they overlapped Sadie and Sienna. And while we will never know for sure, according to this timeline, I do not believe so. But if you have any other goss, you let me know. Now let's talk about Miss Sienna Miller, style icon. When everyone is talking about boho chic, they bring up Alexa Chung and the Olsens. She's an OG style queen. I love her, and I recently saw her at the Prenza Schooler show, and she looked fucking stunning. She was seated with this like small editor, Anna Wintour. Have you heard of her? Are you familiar? Her birthday is December 28th. His is December 29th. Her sun is in Capricorn. Her moon is in Aquarius. Makes sense. That Libra and Aquarius moon, love it. Who else had a moon in Aquarius? His first wife. She comes from a privileged background. In her teen years, she was known as a very rebellious child. Rock and roll. Listen to this. She drank and had a teenage snog with the school gardener, who she dubbed the green-fingered god. The green-fingered god. Part 4, Sienna Miller and Jude Law. A little background on Sienna Miller. When she's 18, she graduates. She immediately becomes a model with Select Model Management. She starts acting at the Lee Strasberg School of Acting, or the Institute, with Lee Strasberg, who has trained so many famous actors, from like Lady Gaga to Robert De Niro, Angelina Jolie, like you name it. Also Marilyn Monroe, if I'm right, if I remember correctly. At 20, she lands a rom-com with Elle Macpherson, iconic model, and she's also having a little affair, a little fling with a Mr. Bloom, Legolas, if you will. A few roles later, Alfie. Her role wasn't this huge role, but they spent enough time together, you know, to heat it up. What is wrong? To heat it up, whatever. To get together. In a 2003 interview with the Evening Standard, she was pushed to answer questions about photos of her kissing Jude Law in a park, and this is what she said. There were some pictures of me, Jude, and his son Rafferty, over the weekend, but that was all blown out of proportion. It was just a bit of fun, and while it might have looked like he was kissing me, it was nothing of the sort. Did he have an eyelash on his cheek? And that's what you were doing? I would love a spare. We just went to a gallery and were larking around afterwards. Okay. It seems Sienna Miller was like quite taken with Jude Law quite immediately, like everybody else in the world, including myself, whatever. After the taping of Selfie, okay, Sienna Miller says this. It's been a very exciting few weeks, but it's difficult to know what to say. You do fall a little bit in love with everyone you're working with on some artistic level. I'm convinced of it. Girl, I don't have to be on set to fall in love with somebody. They're kissing somebody else on set, and I'm just like, when we kiss, it's probably going to be just like that. I'm sick. The director of Alfie said this in an interview with New York Magazine. When they first met, to be honest, I think Sienna was a little gaga. Pause up, whatever. Oh my God. When they first met, to be honest, I think Sienna was a little gaga, but Jude's a cool customer. This was around the time of the divorce, probably ScarJo. You know, he's a single man. He's allowed to do whatever the hell he wants, whatever. But because of this and his rising star and everyone wanting to know what he's doing, and of course, when like a hot young actor becomes divorced and he's on the market, the media goes insane. So unfortunately, she became super famous, but not for her acting ability and her craft. It was more, she became like a tabloid personality pretty quickly. After the movie premiered, Jude kept very busy because he was also starring in 5 other movies at the time of the premiere. I'm telling you, Beyonce, Jude Law, Earth signs for science. It's math. Part 5, Sienna Miller and Jude Law. So Jude Law is very much in his Beyonce mode, and apparently he threw himself into his work and not at me, sadly, because he was going through a lot of emotional shit. His marriage had ended, right? Here's a quote. He was going through a lot of shit in those days. I think, well, I know because we talked about it, that's one of the reasons he did all these movies in a row. Like Sky Captain, The World of Tomorrow, I Heart Huckabee's Alfie, Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events, The Aviator, and Closer, all 6 of which were to be out before the year's end, is because it allowed him to involve himself in something other than legal fighting. Sienna Miller, on the other hand, was famous for being famous, and I don't mean that like I'm dismissing her. She was kind of like the OG influencer in that way. She was attached to this really huge name in film, and she hadn't had enough experience or like a big blockbuster role yet. So she had all this attention on her, and I think on her personal life, and of course her style. I know that she influenced fashion a lot. A lot of people during that time did, but she's definitely one of them. But she made it look so effortless. She's just cool. You know, I say this all the time about other people too, but she is one of the OG cool girls. If you were on Tumblr, you saw her everywhere. Like, so fire. So fire. The Guardian and Vogue called her the Queen of Boho. But she had the tabloid curse. We see it all the time. We've talked about other starlets who have suffered this curse, where no matter how talented you are, once you become a tabloid subject, it is very hard for people to take you seriously. And I've heard other previous tabloid queens say you don't know if the movie hired you because of your craft or you're good at the role, or because of the drama surrounding you and your name and the rumors, and that will give the movie a lot of promo, etc. You can understand. The New York Times said this: Sienna Miller, a new it girl who barely registers on screen despite wearing little more than lacy filaments that make her look like a gift meant to be unwrapped very quickly. I think that is really gross to say. Sienna and Jude become public in 2004. They are immediately knighted. You like that? Some English slang, some jargon. They're immediately united as the golden couple. Sienna Miller is Vogue's It Girl of the Year that year, and Jude Law is People Magazine's sexiest man alive. After a year together, Jude Law proposed on Christmas Day. The ring itself was reportedly worth $35,000. Olive, who helps me with these, put in parentheses, which is on the cheaper end of celebrity rings. Incredible. And many publications were like, you know, this is on the cheaper side of rings, but she is boho chic. So it's like part 6, Jude Law and Sienna Miller. So 4 months after they get engaged, reports come out that their relationship is not doing well because Sienna won't stop partying and Jude Law really wants to set a date to the wedding. And she just keeps saying, I need more time. I need more time. And again, she's 23. So what do you, yeah. So I feel like that TikTok sound, what more do you want from me? You know? And apparently Sienna starts telling friends, you know, this is not the man that I dated. And I'm assuming that means that they partied heavily together. And maybe he was just at the point in his life where he was over it. I mean, I certainly, you know, when I want to settle down, you know, I do become more of a hermit crab. But at 23, I was not settling down. I was at the box in Manhattan, unsettled down and traumatized. If you know, you know. More and more rumors, reports come out that Jude Law, and I hate this word, is disappointed in Sienna. Disappointed. 3 months later, a bombshell hits. Another bombshell enters the villa. Whatever. On July 17th of 2005, 7 months after Sienna and Jude got engaged, with their cheapy little ring, the Sunday Mirror publishes an exclusive. Their headline reads, "We rushed into bed and had wild schmecks 3 times. Exclusive. Rat Jude's affair with the nanny. Quote, my whole body was tingling and then one of his kids walked in." It's giving me Affleck Garner flashbacks. Enter the nanny, and not the good kind, Fine. Daisy Wright met with the news and gave her explosive and exclusive interview about their affair. Very detailed. She was 26 and she was the weekend nanny from when he was with Sadie. And my mom says something to, my mom says something to me that I will now say to you. The first time you catch him is not the first time it happened. And when they go to the news, no, my mom, I've never had anybody go to the news, but I think my mother would say to Sienna and Sadie, she went to the news. I think this is not a one-time thing. But she would alternate between Jude's house and Sadie's house, which even infuriates me more. Because imagine this nanny that you've known for so long, and you probably tell her, I mean, as women do, like the scene of Mrs. Doubtfire with Sally Field and Robin Williams, where like you share details about your divorce. And she's part 7, Jude Law, Sienna Miller, and Daisy. So Daisy got the job to be the weekend nanny because one of her good friends was Sadie's assistant. See, now you know. Oh, Tefi, why did you talk about his first wife so much? Because I want you to be informed. Because I care. Who knows if this comes up in conversation? I don't want you to be lost. According to Daisy's accounts, According to Daisy, the affair really got hot and heavy 3 months before he proposed to Sienna Miller. So her story is the first time anything ever happened. 2 of Jude Law's children were in Spain with their mother, I think on vacation or something. And one of the children was with Jude. She came over to help with the kid. They went to a concert. At the concert afterwards, they went backstage, they met with the band, and they got some drinks. In the limo, back to Jude's place, the kid fell asleep, and Daisy gave these publications her diary, and I have some quotes. The 32-year-old heartthrob seduced, this is according to the news, right? To the Times, the Sun, the Mirror, whatever the fuck. The 32-year-old heartthrob seduced pretty Daisy Wright, all the adjectives, 26, in New Orleans while in America filming All the Night's Men with Kate Winslet and Sean Penn in March. They embarked on a passionate and highly charged affair, having 3 times on the first night together, even being caught in bed by one of his children, and both feared they were falling in love. It was amazing, said Daisy in an exclusive interview with the Sunday Mirror. Jude was a masterful lover. Masterful lover who made my whole body tingle. You know what? That's okay. Whatever. Did she write it with like a fluffy feather pen? Like, you know what I mean? Daisy wrote in her, hold on. I'm not saying I'm above it. It's just Daisy wrote in her diary, we went out and had a great time at the concert. We had a few beers and we got a little bit drunk. We went to the dressing rooms, had wine and pizza with the band and chatted. Then, as we were about to start the 2-hour drive back to New Orleans, I asked Jude if I could have a bottle of wine for the journey. Armed with 2 bottles of wine and takeaway pizza, Daisy climbed into the chauffeur-driven limousine with Jude, whose child was already asleep in the back. She continues, we were on such a high from the concert. Okay. And the wine was being knocked back appreciatively. She wrote appreciatively in her diary. Who's she trying to impress? Her future self? Didn't work. Jude and I started talking about the kids and his work on a level of friends, I suppose, and not just employees. Part 8, Jude Law and Sienna Miller. Let's continue. I suppose as I had had a drink, I could let myself go, and so could he. He also told me how difficult it was to live in the public eye. He said, I may be Jude Law, but at the end of the day, I'm just an ordinary guy. We got back to the house. Said goodnight to Jess, the driver, not the driver catching a stray. And when I came back down from the loo, that's bathroom, Jude was putting music on. Ugh. We've all been there, ladies. You say bye to the Jess, the driver, you go to the loo, and all of a sudden you hear the tunes. And we opened another bottle of wine. We sat listening to music and chatted and chatted and chatted so freely and openly. He told me all about his marriage to Sadie, his relationship with Sienna. Pillow talk is my biggest pet peeve. Have schmexuals with whoever you want, but don't talk about me. Ugh, I hate that. And how he missed the kids. And we spoke about me. He said how wonderful he thought I was. We said how similar our outlooks and parents are. I said to Jude, I didn't understand why he couldn't find a wife who didn't want a career and to party all the time. He said it's very hard to find a woman who wants this. You're dating a 23-year-old. Okay. It's very hard to find a woman who wants this. That he would love that more than anything, but there aren't women like that in his line of work. He said I was very special to want that, and it was an amazing way to be. And I jokingly said, I'm free and available. We drank our drinks and listened to the music. Then Jude got up. It's about 3:30 a.m. and said, I must go to bed. I said good night and thanks for the lovely, lovely evening. He walked around behind me, leant over, and gave me a beautiful kiss on the lips. He said, if you are lonely, come and see me. I laughed and said, don't be silly. And he said, no, seriously, it's a big house and you might get lonely. Daisy. The next thing I knew, he was kissing me. It was amazing. He felt so lovely. We kissed and kissed for what seemed like ages. I was thinking, I can't believe this. Jude Law is snogging me. Okay. He seemed to snog me for hours. It was just a beautiful kiss. Oh my God. It was just a beautiful kiss, which lasted about 10 minutes. It was just so beautiful, so passionate. Do you think it was beautiful? I was sitting on the sofa and he was kneeling in front of me, cupping my face in his hands and kissing me. It was the best kiss I've ever had. Tefi, you're not in love with him. Stop. He's disgusting. Stop it. That's a nasty thing that he did. Stop it. We threw ourselves onto the giant bed and ripped off our remaining clothes. I wanted him so much. Who says this? Okay, Stephanie Meyer. And then the lion fell in love with the lamb. No, I'm just kidding. We kicked off our underwear, and before I knew it, it was mind-blowing, rampant. Oh my God. Part 9, Sienna Miller, Jude Law. We continue. Okay, where were we? Jude smelled so manly. I can't stand this person. What is wrong with you? Just say you did it and get on with it. Jesus. We explored each other's bodies intimately and gave each other pleasure. Who is this person? Oh my God. It's like, okay. Afterwards, he was on top of me, stroking my face. He is a great lover and knows how to satisfy a woman. This does sound a little made up. I'm sorry. whatever. Reading from her diary, Daisy adds, then I think he started to feel really guilty. He said, oh God. And I felt a bit sad that he had just used me for a shag. He cuddled me and asked, like, I'm just saying it doesn't sound, I'm not saying that she made it up. I'm just saying that she made it sound so amazing. And I think she just said, why? You know what I mean? Like, because she was not used, but she felt like she was maybe used, okay? He cuddled me and asked if I was okay, and I said yes. After a while, I went back to my room, but I couldn't sleep. I really wanted the hug, so I climbed back into bed with him. And we had more intimacy and then fell asleep in each other's arms. However, at dawn, the slumbering lovers were discovered by Jude's child, who came into the bedroom. Daisy says, the next thing I knew, I heard the door open and the child was looking at me in bed. I was probably still drunk and opened one eye. I just thought, I'm not going to wake up. I'm not going to move. I just laid there. And then Nanny continued that she felt that she was falling in love. So then, like not too much later on, I think days later, Sadie has a dinner party and the nanny is there, and the child told everyone at the dinner party that daddy was in bed with the nanny. As you all know, Olive helps me with these, and she has a note, asterisk. I would love to know who was at this dinner party because Sadie Frost has a lot of A-list friends. As would I, Olive. So let's get to researching. I'm just kidding. Daisy says, I was getting the child ready for bed when I was hit with the bombshell. The child said, Daisy, why were you in New Orleans when I came into Daddy's room when you were tucked up in his arms? I was speechless. I thought, oh shit. Daisy had the nerve to tell the Daily Mail that she was disappointed in the way that she was fired. So of course, Jude Law faced a ton of backlash, and the headlines did not hold back. They called him Rude Law. Here's one of the excerpts from articles about this scandal, and I feel bad showing this for some reason, so I am gonna do it to myself. Now we're even. Yes, I inverted the image. It was better for our hairline, obviously. And no, before you ask, I'm not a professional at Photoshop. But the headlines were even more brutal too. Why am I leaving this up? No. Part 10, Sienna Miller and Jude Law. The media was even more brutal to the nanny and Sienna than they were to Jude Law. Jude's nanny, not so dandy, oh so average, au pair. I'm in awe of Law. Another headline, Sienna Miller, dumb as the rest of us. That is so fucked up. Jude Law releases a statement to the British Press Association. Following the reports in today's papers, I just want to say I am deeply ashamed and upset that I've hurt Sienna and the people most close to us. I want to publicly apologize to Sienna and our respective families for the pain I have caused. And Sienna had no comment. Because what the fuck was she supposed to say? Sienna's mother spoke to the press. Sienna is probably too angry for tears at the moment. It is anger and betrayal. Sienna is not with Jude at the moment. I can't comment on whether or not they will stay together. She also said, this is so stupid. He's a bloody idiot. I love it. Sienna is, and you can quote me on that. Some men just can't keep it in their trousers. My mom would say the same. Pero en español. Friends said that Sienna was incandescent with rage and that she had texted several of her friends saying, it doesn't look good. Yeah, it doesn't look good. It looks fucking terrible. Sadie Frost also gave an on-the-record quote. I have all sorts of advice for her, but I do not want to go into that publicly. Oh. Meaning... this is not what my mom say, huh? What my mom say? The first time you catch him. If she phones me, I'll have a long chat with her. I can't believe they don't have each other's phone numbers. And he was engaged to a woman that was around his children all the time. They didn't have each other's phone numbers. If she phones me, I'll have a long chat with her. I can only give her advice if she asks for it. Otherwise, I have to stay out of it. This is really something that they really have to sort out together, which is very mature. Very mature. Because I would have said, okay, because in October 1998, I would have gone, yeah. I know this is crazy, but they broke up. And Sienna, you have to keep an eye out for Sienna. And Sienna had a lot of resentment because all this tabloid craziness about the nanny was really detrimental to her because she was very, very much intent on becoming a serious actress. And like I mentioned before, being in the tabloids really stops people from taking you seriously. She was currently doing a play, Shakespeare's As You Like It, on London's West End, 7 nights a week. when this dropped. It was easily one of the most high-profile gigs she's ever done, and something that she really wanted to help change the perception of her as this like party girl or just Jude Law's fiance. Apparently, the night that she found out, she had just finished the show, and there was a crowd of paparazzi waiting for her, and she's in tears. I'm not going to show it because fuck no. Part 11. Jude Law and Sienna Miller. 48 hours after the affair was revealed, Sienna Miller's understudy took over, which breaks my heart. She told the Daily Beast this: "That was one of the most challenging moments I hope I'll ever have to experience, because with that level of public heartbreak, to have to get out of bed, let alone stand in front of 800 people every night, it's just the last thing that you want to do. There's a whole 6 weeks of that experience that I don't remember. I have no recollection of it." And I don't know if anyone, well, I'm sure people can talk to this, but there are so many people who have come out and been like, I don't remember my childhood. I don't remember my marriage. Because your brain can't handle that level of stress and trauma. So like your brain chemically kind of like does you the favor of a blackout almost. Continued. "People who came to see me said we had dinner. I don't remember. I was in so much shock over it all, and I really had just begun. I was only 23. But if you can get through that..." Marge, why would you burp? It's disgusting. I had too much carrot juice. "But if you can get through that, if you feel like you can get through anything." And then it begins. Let's call this chapter On Again, Off Again. And before anybody says, oh, why would she go back? You know, I really do admire people who give people the benefit of the doubt and love the idea of human evolution and learning lessons. And sometimes it works. And we hear a lot about the times that it doesn't. But I'm not going to sit here and chastise a woman for being brave enough to give somebody a second chance. Because giving a second chance after you've been hurt, you put that at risk again. And that kind of hope takes a lot of courage. Maybe there was a lesson to be learned there and she hadn't learned it yet. So I'm not going to berate somebody for not knowing what they were going to know later, what they hadn't known yet. And she's 23. In August 2005, they're seen taking a walk together. Also, around that time, she had to dispel rumors that she was seeing Daniel Craig, who is part of that Primrose Hill set friend group, a great friend of Jude's. Apparently, some tabloid found a voicemail, got their hands on a voicemail that she had left Daniel, which is weird that they can hack into people's voicemails. But I will say something about tabloids. Tabloids, especially in the 2000s, like when I was a teen, I remember being extremely harsh, but none harsher than British tabloids. That was actually insane. There was a documentary that I saw where tabloid people had their faces blurred out, and they admitted to their editors telling them to Photoshop them in situations for headlines. So it looked like something really happened, all the while the person wasn't even in that city with that person. Crazy. But these headlines, make note of this, these headlines about the voicemail didn't hit the news till like 10 years later. And the headlines were Sienna's revenge on cheating Jude. In December 2005, they're seen together again, but in February 2006, she's on a Part 12, Jude Law, Sienna Miller. So she does a red carpet in 2006, and they ask her for Casanova, right? And it's February, right? So Valentine's Day. So they ask her on the red carpet, any advice for single women? And she says this: just stay single, stick together with your girlfriends. So people are like, okay, so she's single. But in June, they're seen together again, and in November, they call it quits again. Also around that time, she has an interview, and she says to Rolling Stone, not Rolling Stones, everybody pointed that out in the last series, to Rolling Stone, I don't know, monogamy is a weird thing for me. It sounds like trauma to me. It's an overrated virtue, because let's face it, we're all fucking animals. Hurts me. How old is she? Like 24, turning 25. David Katz does a profile on her for Esquire, and these are some of the things that David said, right? The collective evil eye, the British tabloids, the blogs, Us Weekly, which I thought was US Weekly, United States Weekly, but alas, is something Sienna Rose Miller knows well, since being publicly burned when Law, her now ex-fiance, cheated on her with the nanny of his 3 kids. Ugh. Nary a day goes by without some gossipy item on her, from the hilariously mundane Sienna Miller was spotted using her mobile phone in an airport security line, to the simply cruel. One blogger annotated a photo of her grandfather's tombstone to read Slutty Miller. Disgusting. As she recalls all these now tired events, what strikes her the most is her lack of bitterness. To Jude, that is. She's plenty bitter towards elements of the press. It was a very loving, very close relationship, she explains. Obviously, we had our problems, but every single person I know has experienced infidelity. Oh, that hurts. It's not the first time. She just thinks it's it's like it comes with love, and that's so not true. It comes with men. No, I'm just kidding. It's not the first time it's happened to me, and it probably won't be the last. Still, she remains pathologically optimistic about love. Delusional, and we talk about delusion a lot on this app, right? For the better. She says, and seems on slightly less jaded now than the girl who at 20 fell for a yoga teacher in Guatemala and moved in with him for 3 months. You feel cynical by comparison. The scandal made Miller a famous actress who is not really famous for being an actress. Though to be fair, she was an actress long before she met Law, having landed Alfie and Jude when she was a relative unknown. She finds herself shortly after in another cheating scandal when she is with Balthazar Getty. Balthazar Getty is married and a father of 4. Not of Getty Images, he comes from oil. Because I thought that as well. One of the richest families at the time. Crazy fortune. She was papped in Positano, kissing him without cover. So scandal. 13, Sienna Miller and Jude Law. So Balthazar, after these pictures are posted, admits to the affair, and he says this. In light of the fact that many pictures have surfaced in print and on the internet, which has caused myself and my family great embarrassment, no, you caused your family great embarrassment, I felt it necessary to acknowledge publicly that yes, indeed, my wife and I have separated, and I will not be commenting any further. And this damaged Sienna Miller's image, of course, because, and I've said it many times, people had already decided who she was. A lot of British tabs were very cruel to her and said, you know, she's disposable, and then this happened, and it just seemed, people would call her like words like floozy, which is like so tired and so old. What is this, 1940? Around this time, after his commentary, somebody vandalized Sienna's apartment and graffitied the word slut everywhere. And then shortly after, she was papped, just trying to get gas, and she's in tears, like begging people to just leave her alone. She was so tormented that not only her mother came out to give statements, but Sadie Frost came out in defense of her and said, and insisted that she was a nice person. She's young, she's a free spirit, she has been really unfairly treated. She goes on, whatever she does in her personal life, that is between her and the other person. It isn't for the media to persuade the public that she's a bad person. 4 months later, it's reported that Balthazar and Sienna are no longer on speaking terms. Him and his wife got back together. I cannot even imagine her self-worth at this time. In fact, Balthazar and his ex-wife are still together to this day. The same month he gets back with his wife, she settles a lawsuit. She settles a lawsuit against a photo agency over claims of paparazzi harassment after gross and intolerable violation of her basic rights. In 2009, Jude becomes a father again. He had a 2-day fling with an actress in Florida, Samantha Burke. He insisted it wasn't his child, asked his lawyers to have a paternity test done, and he is the father. Apparently, Samantha had been trying to get a hold of him for a while and could not get a hold of Jude. She told, according to reports, she said that Jude had given her his phone number and then it didn't work. She had to let Jude know that she was pregnant through his publicist. He was, of course, filming a movie. The man is always filming a fucking movie. He couldn't go to the birth, but he met his child 5 weeks after the baby was born. He reportedly only sees her once or twice a year. And then in late 2009, they're back together. They were both living at New York at the time and reconnected. They spent Christmas 2009 together and then made it a part 14. Jesus Christ, this photo. Focus. So they go to the Met Gala, okay? They're officially back together. They buy a house in London, 7 bedrooms for $10.5 million. Very cheapy, but chic. Jude Law and Sienna Miller break up for the final time in 2011. So they split in February 2011. She does an interview with Esquire in 2014. She says that they were still friends at the time of the split. It was a huge part of my life and his life, and it ended in a way that was awful. When something ends in a way like that, it's important, if you can, in a way, go back and revisit it and either shut that door or create a new one, a new room. So I guess both of them were like, what if? I mean, they still held on and it ended so terribly, not because either of them wanted to, but because somebody made a really terrible mistake with a woman who journals like a 13-year-old. So it was a very healthy, cathartic experience. Let's get into the Daniel Craig subplot. And that's how Olive bolded it. Daniel Craig subplot. Let's get into it. Let's talk about it. So if you recall, in 2005, the Daily Mail said she cheated on Jude Law with his very close friend, Daniel Craig. And Sienna said, nay. That's one of his best friends. I would never. Well, we got answers in January of 2014. There was a court trial against News of the World for phone hacking. This is a company owned by the Murdoch family, and they own Fox News. It's a big family, right? They're a big media owning family. Okay, let me read you a little bit about this. Okay, early 2011, widespread allegations of phone hacking by journalists became public. Okay, News of the World journalists were using techniques to illegally get access to people's voicemails and use them as tabloid stories. Also, Kim Kardashian, we saw in that episode of Keeping Up with the Kardashians that she was able to hack into Khloe's ex-boyfriend's phone and hear his voicemails from other women. So I guess they got cut off. I guess they use those same techniques, right? So the people who were being hacked were mainly celebrities, okay? Their families and also politicians, but also veterans and victims of crimes, including a 13-year-old girl her life was taken from her. So in order for these journalists to get more information, they were hacking into these people's voicemails. So, News of the World published a story about Prince William's treatment for an injury based on information that nobody could ever know, but because it's one of its journalists had listened to the prince's voicemails. Kimberly, do you work for the News of the World? I'm just kidding. So in result, the company was shut down, right? And journalists and executives had to plead guilty to conspiracy to hack phones because it was suspected that phone hacking was a company-wide practice and company leaders knew about it and encouraged it. So in 2014, a bunch of celebrities come to testify, including Jude. Part 14, I believe. Part 14, Jude and Sienna Miller. So in 2004, Daniel Craig and Sienna Miller star in this movie called Layer Cake. So 2005, News of the World says that someone sent them Daniel Craig's voicemails. That somebody anonymously just gave it to them, when in reality they were hacking into Jude Law and Daniel Craig's voicemails. I will never leave a voicemail again in my whole fucking life. So the voicemail obtained from Sienna Miller says the following. Hi, it's me. Can't speak. I'm at the Groucho with Jude. I love you. Oopsies. The reporter said that he listened to thousands of Jude and Daniel's voicemails over the years. And Sienna took the stand and admitted to having an affair with Craig because she wanted to get back at him for cheating on her. And then it comes out that Jude Law had asked News of the World to write that Sienna Miller had cheated first and to describe her as clingy and a bit of a stalker. Okay. No wonder you got her such a cheap fucking ring. So where are they now? Sienna Miller has been very open about how traumatized she is from the British media. She has a child with her ex-boyfriend, Tom Sturridge. You might know him from the movie The Sandman. She also started a Netflix series called The Anatomy of a Scandal. Jude Law had a fifth child in 2015 with a Catherine Harding. Then he married his longtime girlfriend, Philippa Cohn, in May 19. She's a business psychologist. I don't really know what that means. And they had a child together in 2020, and that is his sixth child. And his most recent project is the Harry Potter Fantastic Beasts, right? Yeah. The Secrets of Dumbledore. All right, well, that's that. And at the end of the day, men will embarrass you. Good night.